So, good afternoon. I am Joan Benz, the program coordinator for Sharp Again Naturally, and I want to thank you for joining us this afternoon for Brain Health 101, Preventing Cognitive Decline workshop. We would like to note that the information in this presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Our information is intended to empower individuals, their families, and healthcare professionals who want to collaborate in the most effective ways on this journey to health and well-being. Please see a licensed and qualified medical professional for your medical needs. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat box and we will answer them during the Q&A. Now, I'd like to welcome and introduce our speakers, Steve Ledvina and Myra Oney. Steve is a national board certified health and wellness coach, founder of knowingalz.com, and Sharp Again's board chair. Myra is a certified holistic health coach, certified brain longevity specialist, and a Reiki master teacher. Both Myra and Steve are coaches for our foundational coaching program. And lost my place. Myra is coaching our new Maintain Your Brain coaching program, which you'll hear about more later. So thank you, Myra and Steve, for joining us today.
Thanks, Joan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joan. So we'll start off by just talking a little bit about Sharp Again and what we do, because I noticed a number of new names and faces here today. So our mission is to educate, empower, and support everyone to take an active role in optimizing their cognitive health using a scientifically based multi-therapeutic approach. And what that really just means is we really want to help you take action to maintain your brain health as long as you can, push off any cognitive decline, and be as sharp as you can be. And we envision a world where dementia can be prevented, treated, and reversed. And even better than that, where everyone has the ability to remain cognitively healthy throughout their lives. And so just wanted to welcome everybody and thank you for being here, taking this step towards achieving that vision in your own lives. So what are we going to do today? What are we going to talk about today? So we're going to start with just the real basic information about what is normal aging and what is cognitive decline, what is abnormal aging when it comes to the brain, just so that we really have a clear vision of that. And then we'll move into what can we do right now to stay sharp, both now and in the long term. We'll talk a little bit about what the root causes of memory loss and cognitive decline are. And then most importantly, you saw it in our mission, it's part of our vision, that everybody leaves here with one or more action steps. The knowledge is really valuable, but if you forgot everything else from this presentation and you made one change, I think that would be an even bigger victory for each of us in our own lives than remembering everything we said today. So with that, I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about the difference between dementia and normal aging. So what is normal aging or normal cognition? So things we might experience as a part of just normally getting a little older would be simple forgetfulness, a delay or slow in recalling names, dates, events, trouble finding words in a conversation, maybe that kind of like tip of your tongue feeling, slowing in the speed of processing information. Maybe it takes an extra beat or two to fully process what somebody said or something that a problem you're solving. Challenges, multitasking, that all of those pieces of normal aging really begin at age 30 and continue slowly throughout our lives. And then what is not normal aging? So the abnormal or cognitive decline can start with something called subjective cognitive impairment. These are brain changes where you might be the only one to notice them. Your family members, your significant other, your doctors might not be able to pick up on these changes. They won't show up on tests yet, but you can tell there's just something not quite right about my brain. I don't really think I'm firing on as many cylinders as I used to be. That's kind of that subjective cognitive impairment. And then there's when it does start to show up on testing, when it does, some family members might notice these changes. And what are the not normal aging changes? So they would include things like regularly forgetting appointments or conversations, regularly misplacing items, trouble focusing, often forgetting names of family members or friends, struggling to complete tasks you are used to doing, such as, the activities of daily living, shopping, driving, balancing your checkbook or managing money. These are all sort of the memory, not normal aging or memory problems that interfere with daily life. An easy way to sum up the difference between these things: it's normal to forget where your glasses are. It's not normal to forget what your glasses are used for. And then finally, after mild cognitive impairment, we have what we consider dementia. I think one of the takeaways here is what I just said. There is a difference between normal and not normal aging, and also that we're used to see, many of us have the experience of a family member or loved one who's had dementia. We kind of know what that looks like, but there's stages in between normal cognition and dementia, and those are actually the most effective times to act. This isn't a one-way street where if you get subjective cognitive impairment, you're definitely going to progress to dementia. There are changes and action steps that we can take to make our brain healthier. And so what does that look like? Well, here's sort of a little bit of a graph that helps it ring true for some people. If this doesn't work well for you, that's totally okay. So normal aging, slight decline in our cognitive function over the years. Everyone ages a little differently. This will look a little different for everybody. Our brains will age in different ways, but overall, it's a slow decline over the years. Preclinical, or that subjective cognitive decline, is a little bit steeper. You might be noticing a little more decline. It's a little bit faster. And then, when we get into that mild cognitive impairment, so it's a little bit faster. And again, dementia, the decline is a little steeper. But all the things we're going to talk about today, and really all the things that Sharp Again is dedicated to raising awareness about, are meant to prevent that curve, to delay the onset of the curve, to slow how fast the decline happens, or to stop it altogether. And so really you want to push out where the more than normal aging starts, the additional decline, and also just slow this curve to be as close to normal aging for everyone as possible. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Myra to talk about this prevention mindset.
Okay, so it used to be that when a person went to see their doctor and the doctor gave them a diagnosis of dementia, the doctor would usually say, you know what, there's really nothing we can do about this. Maybe, there's some medication we can try, but it doesn't really work very well, or it stops working. So it's really best if you just kind of get used to this idea that you're going to have a memory decline and go home and get your affairs in order. There's really nothing you can do. And when a person heard this, what would happen? Well, I would certainly become very fearful. You go into denial. No, that's not happening to me. You would wish it away, right? Say, no, I really, this is not going to happen to me. And last of all, you start hiding away. And when a person starts hiding away, it means they're not reaching out to friends and family. And they're not looking to get support. And what we are saying here at Sharp Again is that there is hope, because today we know that switching to a prevention mindset can really help with the longevity of your brain and of the quality of your life. Because today we're living longer and we're focusing on prevention, which is a huge, huge thing, and time to start is now. We know many of the causes of memory loss, and many of them are lifestyle related, which is what we focus on. And we know that it's possible to prevent, slow the progression, and sometimes even reverse memory loss by beginning to implement some of these lifestyle changes. So what we'd like you to do today, because this is a workshop, we don't want to just like be talking stuff at you. We want you to actually get something from this. Please get a piece of paper, pen or pencil, or maybe you downloaded and printed this out. Because today, for the rest of this workshop, we'd like you to start taking notes on things that you hear that are places where you can go to work to make a lifestyle change. Now, it's possible that you're going to feel that you didn't get a lot of new information, but my question to you would be, what are you hearing that's something that you may have heard before that you can say, okay, it's really time I do something about this, because that's the key. The key is for you to identify where it is you want to go to work and how it is you're going to reach that goal that's going to help your brain health. This is the kind of work that we do in our small group program. We wanted to give you a sample of it today, and give you something that you can take away with you and start working on.
So I think that part that Myra just mentioned is so important. It's, a lot of the things I'm about to talk about won't come as a surprise, but it's more of an opportunity to take an inventory. For example, sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night, probably not a surprise to anyone that that's something that's really important to our brain health. But are we sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night? And when we are saying 7 to 9 hours, what we really mean is that's 7 to 9 hours fully asleep. So that doesn't include the time falling asleep, the time we lay in bed when we wake up, time that you're waking up in the middle of the night, maybe to use the restroom, or just lying in bed awake, which is very common. We really want to be creating the sleep environment to be built, getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's very important for our brain, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Nutrition, very complex topic. I think we've probably throughout our lifetimes heard a million different nutrition pieces of advice. When we're talking about brain health, it really boils down to a vegetable-heavy Mediterranean-style diet is going to go a long way towards helping remain cognitively sharp. Exercise, this is the one that I most commonly see people the farthest away from kind of the healthy, brain healthy level of exercise. We want to see a combination of aerobics, so that's running, walking, anything that gets your heart rate up, gardening, pickleball, insert your own favorite version of that here. Weight training. So we want to be adding a little bit of muscle to our body if we can, or at least maintaining the muscle that we have. Muscle is so important to a lot of body processes that all contribute to our brain health. And then stability and flexibility, the things that keep us able to do kind of all those activities that we want to do every day and keep us from falling as we age, are really important. All of that we want to add up to kind of a minimum of 180 minutes a week. So that's exercise. And then when that's exercising our body, we also want to be exercising our brains. Mental activity is really important. Learning new skills, learning new hobbies, revisiting old hobbies, anything that's kind of stretching our brain a little bit. We know when our brain is working a little harder than normal, it can feel a little tiring, but we want to keep throughout our life, pushing our brain a little bit to be building new neurons, reactivating old neurons that we haven't used in a while. Those are really valuable things to be doing. Stress can be really damaging in its chronic form. If we have chronic stress that never goes away, that we're feeling all of the time, that can really have a strong negative impact on our bodies. And so we want to see if we can remove stressors, or in the cases where we can't remove those stressors, which is common in our lives, build in stress management techniques like meditation, or going for a walk, or going outside. anything that you've learned works for you. And then finally, staying socially active, having a strong social support network, engaging with our loved ones. And that can be everything from, really strong going to dinner with friends or family, but also things as small as, saying hi and chatting with the person who's making your coffee in the morning at a coffee shop, or the librarian at the library. Those small interactions have a big impact as well. Those were all lifestyle factors. Those are kind of the things we're going to focus on today. I really invite people to join us for our webinars throughout the year, where we dive into those topics, but also the ones I'm about to mention here in deeper depth. We'll do a full hour on just those with an expert and the opportunity to ask questions. So I'll run through these quickly just so everybody kind of knows there's more to brain health than just the lifestyle factors and potential causes. So things like toxins in our food, water, and air can have an impact on our brain health. Hormonal imbalances like the thyroid hormone or the different sex hormones, if our levels of those are out of the normal range, they can have a significant impact on our brain. Inflammation from really all of the other potential factors, both lifestyle factors, but things like toxins, hormonal imbalances, heavy metal toxicity. That inflammation is often the way that those things cause trouble in our brains. Heavy metal toxicity, things like high levels of mercury, lead, or other metals can be one of the causes of cognitive decline and is one of the more reversible. So if that's a concern, getting tested for those, it can be a really valuable step. Both physical, so thinking like concussions, and emotional trauma has an impact on our brain health. And then finally, this is one to not take lightly and make changes cavalierly, but things like medications can have side effects that have significant impacts on our brain. So if you think that might be the case for you, have a discussion with your doctor about that. Definitely do not make any changes to prescription medications without the advice of the prescriber or one of your doctors. Okay. And so if you haven't been taking notes already on action steps, the next 20 minutes is a great place to start doing that.
Okay, so now we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the things that we've been talking about and come up with some specific action steps that we can all do now. Now, these are things that we can do without seeing a doctor, without getting tested, without having to go on some kind of medication. In other words, these are things that are in your power to change today. So the first thing, perhaps not unsurprisingly, is to eat whole unprocessed food. So that means food that doesn't come in a box or a can or something that is like, say, a TV dinner from the frozen food department. This is choosing whole foods, right? Something where the container is actually the skin of the food. Fresh fruit, a rainbow of vegetables and leafy greens. These are all very important. These are really foundational for a healthy diet. And in addition, adding low-fat meat, like low-fat red meat, beef, fish, chicken, in small amounts, and nuts, olives. You want to have good oils in there as well. Basically, a Mediterranean-style diet. And of course, reducing sugar is extremely important. This is not just sugar that you add to your morning coffee, but also sugar in the form of refined carbohydrates like muffins, breads, pasta, all those things we love to eat, are not really so good for you. So is there something you can do here to perhaps begin eating more whole foods, more fruits and vegetables? The next thing is to hydrate. Now, I'm sure you've all heard how important hydration is. And one of the reasons is because water is really essential for delivering the nutrients to the brain and for removing toxins. And that's huge because the main reason that we start having health issues is because of toxic buildup in our brain. And the water is the number one thing that we can do, sufficient water, to flush these toxins out, as well as deliver all the nutrients for that healthy food we're starting to eat. Water also helps to balance mood and reduce stress, and it also helps with sleep. So if you're not hydrating enough, then that's something you can start taking a look at. Fasting for 12 hours overnight. So this is sometimes called intermittent fasting, and there's been more and more evidence how helpful this is for your overall health and energy. And basically, I mean, the word fast can be kind of scary, but when you look at it, what this really means is you put your fork down at 7 o'clock at night and you don't eat again until 7 o'clock the next morning. That's a 12-hour fast. So if you're accustomed to snacking after dinner, then this could be a challenge for you, but it would be a challenge that's really well worth taking on, as long as you don't have blood sugar issues. If you do, you should speak with your doctor before you do something like this. But basically, having a fast, it gives your brain cells and the gut microbiome, which the two talk to each other, we found out, an opportunity for recovery and renewal, and also improves insulin sensitivity, which is very important, especially if you are insulin insensitive, if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic. So 12-hour overnight fast is one of the favorite things that people like to take on.
So one thing to note, and Myra kind of hinted at it with the hydration and talking about the connections with stress, is that, just starting with one of these, 10 things we'll go through can help make all of the others a little bit easier. You start hydrating well, you're a little bit less stressed. It's a little easier to eat healthy. It's a little easier to exercise. Or you start sleeping your 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 hours a night, and you'll feel better, and it'll be easier to do those other lifestyle factors. So why do we even want to sleep 7 to 8 hours? It's because sleep is incredibly important. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we thought, oh man, the most efficient people, they're reducing their sleep 5 hours a night. Sleep doesn't really do anything for you. Turns out our sleep is extremely valuable for our brain health. One of the main factors that happens while we sleep or processes that happens while we sleep, is our glymphatic system helps remove toxins from our brain. So our glial cells in our brain shrink a little bit, cerebrospinal fluid comes in and kind of literally washes the brain, carries toxins away. And that happens every night while we sleep. And we need to be getting enough sleep to give our brains enough time to complete that process. They've found that the hallmark molecules in Alzheimer's disease are present in higher levels after even just one night of bad sleep. So we can imagine how after, decades of compounding poor sleep, that can add up over time. Additionally, sleep is when our brain really takes memories and puts them into the long-term storage. If we have things that happen that day that we need reinforced, our brain does that. If we no longer need to know what we ate for lunch, a month ago Tuesday, our brain says we probably don't need that memory. We can save room for other things. So those two processes are really some of the biggest ways that sleep is valuable for us. And we want to focus on sleep quality, not just quantity. So we talk about this 7 to 8 hours, but creating a strong sleep environment that, where the TV is not on, the lights are off, we don't have our cell phone next to us, reading that before bed, or the things that keep us up, or we want to be having a relaxing environment leading into sleep, maybe not watching news that's going to get us kind of stressed out about the world or worked up about something. We want to be creating a sleep environment that allows for that length of sleep, but also high quality sleep. So I mentioned a little bit earlier about exercise. That's going to be really important for our brain health. Regular exercise promotes strong blood flow of oxygen. It creates a healthier vascular environment. Our blood vessels are the health of our blood vessels in our brain is one of the big contributors, and degradation in those blood vessels is one of the big contributors towards cognitive decline and dementia in our brains. And we need that blood support to support the formation of new brain cells. And so the exercise and cardio can actually help us improve the memory. And as I mentioned before, we want that combination of raising our heart rate. And that I would really encourage people to find the way to do that brings you joy. Maybe you don't need to be suffering on the treadmill and running or walking briskly if you don't like that. If you find a way at the local community center or gym, maybe that's swimming, maybe it's walking and chatting with friends for long enough that it really feels like you got some exercise. Maybe it's going on a bike ride, whatever that is for you. I think you can tell when you're a little out of breath, when your heart rate is up, like that. Those are good initial clues that that's giving your body a heart rate exercise. I think we've often gotten trapped in the idea that exercise needs to be kind of like suffering, and it does need to be challenging to have a strong effect, but it doesn't need to be a bad time. And kind of same thing goes for resistance training. We want to be finding some way to be building muscle, but do that in the way for you. And if that's not something you've ever done before, maybe engage for a few sessions or permanently, a personal trainer or something. Lifting or resistance training can be new to a lot of people. And so asking for help or joining a class or a fitness class that's local to you is a great way to do that. And then finally, I can't stress this enough, stability and flexibility training is so important. It's one of the pieces of this that really allows us to keep doing all of the things we want to be doing. If you want to pick up your grandkids, that's going to mean a combination of resistance training and stability training. But it also keeps us from having those injuries while we're doing other exercise or life that can have a big impact on, if we break our wrist, that's probably going to make us sleep less well. That's probably going to make us have a little less, harder time cooking. All of those things mean it's a little more difficult for us to maintain a healthy lifestyle overall, and injuries are just not fun. And then challenging our brain, exercising our brain. Like, this is really similar to the physical exercise in that you want to find the ways that are fun for you. Some people love brain training. There's some good brain training sites out there like Brain HQ. If that's something you really find is good for you or you enjoy doing, that can be effective. But just as effective can be, learning a new language or speaking that language that you haven't spoken in 15 years and trying to reactivate those. Or same thing goes for an instrument or a hobby. Maybe you used to be a woodworker and you want to do that again. Or maybe you used to, really love a subject and you want to start learning about it again. Anything that gives that feeling of just, oh, my brain is I'm kind of building neurons. We can feel that little bit of resistance in our brain when we're doing a new thing. Anything that's giving that feeling is really, really valuable to making new connections, helping our brain maintain old connections in the brain. So that is challenging our brain. Back to you, Myra.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So number 7 of the 10 things we're going to be talking about is socialization. So we found out during the pandemic how important it is to have a social network. And this is because human beings, we're all social beings, and really our overall health depends on our social interactions. And there have been so many studies that have linked social isolation to developing dementia. Now, social interaction can look different for different people and depending on your personality style. So for instance, if you tend to be an introvert and you don't like to go out and be at big events, well, that's okay because that's a choice, right? Introverts who don't feel isolated, will generally have 1 or 2 close friends or family members who they confide in or hang out with. Or maybe you're a person who really loves to go out and socialize and thrives on having those social connections. But really, Isolation has become a big problem in this country. This is a huge subject once again. So what I would invite you to do here is just think about your social life. Think about what kind of connections you have, what kind of, if you have strong family connections, strong friends, maybe you volunteer, which is great because then you're not only being with people, but you're also contributing to your community, which is another big factor in maintaining your brain health. So I'd invite you to just take a look at your social connections, your social safety net, and see if there's some place that you might say, yeah, you know what? I think that this is something that I can definitely start to work on. Okay, and next is managing stress. So once again, as all of these topics are, this is a really big one. And what we're talking about here is chronic stress, because there's good stress and there's bad stress, right? So good stress is stress that helps you take action. It's like it's getting to an appointment. It is making sure a project gets done on time. So it's stress that's not chronic. It comes, it happens, it has a purpose, and then it goes away. What we're really concerned with here is chronic stress. So chronic stress might be stress over finances, it might be stress over being a caregiver, over retirement, over a change in parenting, over loss of friends or loved ones. This can lead to chronic stress, and the chronic stress can contribute to health problems like high blood pressure, weight gain, headaches, anxiety, digestive issues, and insomnia, all of which are the underlying issue for most of these, for most of this is inflammation. And chronic stress, there's a very particular biochemical thing that happens when you're under stress that leads to inflammation that is the underlying cause of all of these other chronic illnesses, including dementia. So learning how to manage stress, okay? We don't say prevent stress because you can't prevent stress, but learning how to manage it is extremely important. And, we can think about ways you might want to do this. Meditation is something that, we always talk about. But meditation is also something that, doesn't resonate with a lot of people. Other ways you can manage stress is listening to music, walking in nature, exercising is a really terrific way to manage stress. So think about, if you have chronic stresses in your life, how are some ways you can manage it? Maybe you need to get extra support in certain areas to help you manage chronic stress. Okay, so like we said in the beginning, we're really moving to a prevention mindset. That's what is going to make the difference in reversing dementia. But the thing is, you can't wait until you start noticing that you're having memory issues. You want to start now, because the earlier you start to make the changes, the more time you have to make a difference in your brain health. And not only that, but as we get older, we start to get a bit more set in our ways. We're more resistant to making changes. And certainly once certain signs of dementia set in, it becomes extremely difficult to make a lot of these lifestyle changes. So don't delay, start now. Look at what you wrote down on your piece of paper. We're going to work with that in just a minute. But the other thing is you might even want to talk to your kids and your grandkids about brain health, because the things that affect your brain health when you're 70 and 80 years old quite often begin in childhood. And so it's never too late to start talking to your kids, your grandkids, about how they eat. You don't want to get too pushy, obviously, but about diet and exercise and stress and and how they can affect the brain health. That's really where it starts. So in order to create sustainable change, which is what we're talking about, it really takes something. Okay, it takes some organization and some determination and the saying, yes, I am going to do this. Because long-term change does create a healthier brain, but making these changes can be really hard. And creating a system and a community to help you make new habits can be key. And this is something that we provide here at Sharp again that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But first, we're going to go to your worksheet. because one of the things that we're committed to today is that you take away something that you can go to work on now. Okay, so you're going to do a little bit of work here. And this is once again the kind of work that we do in our small group program. What I'd like you to do is take a look at some of the notes that you took over the course of this webinar and see if there's one place that you would like to go to work today to start to make a change to your brain health. And on the right side of your sheet of paper, whether it's you printed this out or it's just a regular piece of paper, I'd like you to write down what that goal is. Now, here's the key. This goal needs to be specific and realistic. Okay. So in other words, you might say, well, I want to lose 25 pounds by the end of the month. Well, that's specific, but it might not be realistic, and it also might not be very healthy. So what you could do is pare that down to what is realistic and healthy and say, well, I could lose 8 pounds by the end of the month. Great. So now it's specific. It has, you're going to lose 8 pounds. You're going to lose it in the next 4 weeks. So it's also time bound, and it's also realistic. So I'd like you to just take a couple of minutes here and write down your goal. So when you've identified your goal, you can move over to the next section, which is your action steps. So, and once again, this is key to reaching any kind of goal, which is to break it down into small action steps, okay? Small steps that you know that you can achieve that are going to get you to where you want to go. So let's say your goal is to lose these 8 pounds. One of the first things you might start doing is reducing the amount of sugar that you use in your coffee or your tea every morning. Another thing might be switching out a piece of fruit for a muffin or a donut or some other thing that you have at breakfast. And the third thing might be walking every day. So those might be 3 things that you could do to help you begin to reach this goal of losing 8 pounds in the month. And if you come up with something, we would actually love you to put it in the chat. You don't have to, but if there's something you'd like to share, we'd love to see it.
Yeah, there's so many good specific goals, and I think having a specific, the right goal is so valuable to one that means something to you. Maybe it's an activity you haven't been able to do. Maybe it's you want to keep doing. Like, I want to be able to pick up my grandkid, and the action steps might be, to go work with a physical therapist because I have, an issue with my knee. I know that was kind of similar to what I had this past year. I was like, I want to teach my niece to ski, but I have a recurring back issue that can flare up every now and then. I better go see the physical therapist if I want to keep doing that. Those types of things. Or Myra gave a good weight related one. Sometimes the action steps can combine multiple parts of our lives together. Like, if your goal is I want to add 2 healthy meals to my week, and maybe you start cooking with a friend enough food that you can have a couple nights of leftovers that are also healthy.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. And I hope that you have come up with something, a goal and some action steps, and you can keep working on this. And as I said, if you would like to share it in the chat, we'd love to hear how you're doing. Okay, let's go on to the next. Oh, here we go. So the things we've been talking about over the course of this program, sleep, stress, nutrition, exercise, are really foundation for good health. And as we said, you may not have, a lot of this information might not have been new, but maybe you didn't really understand how it affected your brain health. And we also talked about how difficult it can be to make lifestyle changes. So at Sharp Again, we offer the Stay Sharp Foundational Coaching Program, which is a small group program that we offer to help people learn more about learn more specific information in these areas, but also to help support you in making these lifestyle changes. It can be really hard if you're just like by yourself or even with a friend to really move forward and begin to make these changes. That's just a hard thing to do. But one of the ways that you can commit to doing this is by committing to doing a program like this. And so this is it's a 6-week program. And it's 6 weekly group coaching sessions. And you also get 2 one-on-one coaching sessions with the coach in your program, which is an incredible value. The coaching sessions are usually 45 minutes to an hour in length, and you get personal attention from your coach. We have educational videos and online resources. Before each session, you go online and you watch a video that's specific to that session that then is discussed during the session, as well as, of course, we also discuss your goals, how you're doing, and give you support in that. And you also have access to a cognitive assessment through a third party company that we use, so that if you're interested, you can you can do this assessment at the beginning of the program, at the end of the program, and then again for the next several months, so that you can actually see how your brain health is improving. Now, this program cost is only $99, and it costs about $450 per person to deliver it. So this is a huge, huge value. And I really urge you, if you are serious about taking steps towards increasing your brain health, the health of your body, you've got nothing to lose except getting healthy. You're not going to lose. You're just going to get healthier. And at the end of the program, you have the tools that you need. This is so important. At the end of the program, you have the tools that you need to not only meet the goals that you set during the program, but also to continue working on other things that are important to you. So we have one group that begins on Tuesday, January 31st, and another group that begins on Wednesday, February 21st. And I believe that the registration deadline is about a week before these 2 dates. Joan can let us know that. But anyway, I highly recommend these programs. Steve and I have both coached in this program, and it can be a real game changer for you.
Yeah, they're just such a wonderful way. If you, as you were going through this, thought, oh, I could get better at this area, I could get better at that area, and there were 2 or 3 areas, you can't find a better way of doing this with a few other people who are trying to make brain healthy changes and a wonderful coach like Myra. It's really just such an effective way to be making yourself healthier. Especially at this time of year when that's kind of all on all of our minds.
Okay. And I just want to talk for a moment about the Maintain Your Brain coaching program. So this is a new program that we have to help support people after they have graduated from the foundational group. And these are monthly 75-minute group coaching sessions. And okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't review this slide. This is actually our old program. What we have now is we have bi-weekly coaching sessions that we offer, the bi-weekly group coaching sessions, and we also will be diving into. You remember when Steve was talking about the other causes of dementia? And he was talking, we were talking about toxicity and prescription medication and hormonal imbalances. In this group, we go further into those other areas, as well as supporting people in their goals. So this is as you can tell, this is a new program we launched in February. And I want to tell you about it today because I don't think anyone here has done the foundational coaching program yet. But this is more just to let you know that once you're done with that program, there's more. Okay, there's more that we can do to support you so that you don't just like drop off the radar and okay, now you're on your own. We're here to help support you.
Yeah. This program, like Myra said, really helps everyone make those long, sustainable, permanent changes. That's really what we're trying to do, is make the changes that are going to last, 5, 10 years, and keep us in our brains continuing to stay healthy over that long term. And the foundation program gets you started. And if you have other support, that's great. But we want to make sure that we are positioned to give you all the support you need for as long as you.
And the other thing that I wanted to say that I don't think we've actually really said before is that if you have instructions from your doctor, your nutritionist, some lifestyle thing that they want you to change, we can help work with you on your prescribed programs. Okay, so if your doctor, your nutritionist is giving you something specific they want you to do and you're having a hard time achieving it, you can bring that to your program and we'll support you in it. That's especially true of the Maintain Your Brain program.
Joan, you wanted to mention the...
Yes, and sorry about the misinformation that I included in this deck on the Maintain Your Brain program. 2 things that I wanted to mention. Our 2024 webinars are being planned as we speak, and we will have that information out to you as soon as we have things finalized. Topics that we're going to be covering this spring are sleep, exercise, toxins, and insulin resistance and glucose control. We have a program starting next week, Monday, De-Stress with Breath. It's our January 5-day challenge, and Vibhu Nagral is returning to lead this program. This program is designed to help people develop a controlled breathing practice that builds immunity, longevity, and sharpness of mind. This is starting January 15th, running through January 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern time for just 20 minutes. And it's designed to really jumpstart a daily practice that you will be able to continue on your own. We will be recording them and adding them to our YouTube channel so you can reference them then as well. Back to you, Steve.
And
Sorry.
Joan will be sending out a link for registering for the one of the foundational programs if you're interested in that, as well as the deadline for registration.
Yep.
So
you'll get all that info tomorrow.
Great.
All right. So what's next? I think we've mentioned a number of things already. You can go to sharpagain.org to get more information about, really deep dive information about all the things we talked about today. There's a great jumpstart guide there called Roadmap to a Healthier Mind. You can sign up for our email list, and that's an easy way to get emails about all of the things that we talked about today, but also all our different opportunities and programs in the future. Join or refer someone to our programs. If you have a specific question, email us at info@sharpagain.org and we'll help you answer that. And those 3 things, I really want to invite everybody. We work really hard. We care a lot about this. We want to make everybody taking the next steps, keeping their brains healthy, learning more about brain health, accessible to everyone. We do a lot of work to make the prices as affordable as we possibly can. And we do a lot of work to make, things like the meditation program free, and that you have the opportunity to have support over the long term with us, if you so choose. And so to do that, if you or somebody has the means, supporting us through donation is always very welcome and appreciated. And so you can do that at sharpagain.org/donate. Finally, these are Myra and my emails if you want to write them down if you have a specific question. But we would love to take any specific questions right now so that everybody can benefit from the answer.
You can add those to the meeting chat or raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask away. We do have a couple of comments. Robin shared that she uses Dr. Mercola's YouTube demo of nitric oxide dump for daily exercise. I have not heard of that.
Yeah. I like this comment from John saying he's walking more now, building strength, and might consider resuming karate, and has an RN as his sensei. That's very cool. And a great example of like building the exercise and walking and things. But then karate is like an awesome example of like a social thing, something that's, I imagine, very fun. If you're considering doing it again, it's a perfect example. Thank you for sharing.
And another person has seen big improvements with Brain HQ.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Brain HQ is one of those where some people really love it, and it definitely works. My comment on Brain HQ is just I've also talked to people who don't love it as much, and in that scenario, it's valuable to find another way. Any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and just shout.
How about is all water equal? Water bottles, faucets, etc.
It's a good question. So from probably a hydration perspective, the answer would largely be yes, but depending on what water you have, toxins would be more the conversation there, in my opinion, and maybe Myra has a different thing, but depending on what water you get, having a filter might be valuable. And also, like when we're talking water bottles, if it's plastic and you're leaving it in the sun or it's sitting there for a long time, things like the plastics can leach into the water and then be something you're also drinking. So just making sure that the water you're drinking doesn't have, other issues with it is good. In general, I think the water quality in the US is pretty good. And if it's not, that's probably a local news story to keep out for. But Myra, do you have anything to add?
No, I would have said that, that the question is that just making sure that the water that you're drinking is as pure as possible. Many people have water filters, whether it's something that's built into their water, their house water system, or whether it's like a Brita pitcher or something like that. But it's something that will filter out any impurities. Fluoride is very controversial. So if you have water that's fluoridated and you don't want to have that in your body, then there are filters that will filter out fluoride. But really, I think the big thing is really the plastic bottles are a no-go. So if you're carrying a water bottle, I think a stainless steel is probably the best. Glass is great, but it breaks. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah,
I have a nice
and
glass one with plastic
yeah, the glass. I have one of those, a glass bottle with the rubber bumper.
They're heavy.
Yeah, the glass is a little heavier. And this is like, yeah, it's a great question because it's kind of an emerging thing in science. Sort of all of the time we are learning things like you may have seen headlines around forever chemicals being in water in different communities, and so now different municipal filtration and water purification like places are adding new things to get those forever chemicals out. All the filtration companies are starting to add new technology to their water filtration. So it's something to keep an eye on an ongoing basis. But I think any other
another question, how does alcohol affect the brain?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So the most up-to-date science says that any amount of alcohol is not healthy for your brain. And that's going to be for a number of reasons. Alcohol has its cognitive effects, the buzz and kind of all of the effects we feel when we drink for alcohol, because it's also kind of a toxin. It is a toxin to our body. So it puts a lot of stress on the body to filter that out. So the most modern, we may have heard like a glass a day of wine and things. For a long time, science kind of said 1 or 2 drinks, not a huge deal. That's sort of changed. But it has a lot of effects on all the lifestyle factors too. Sleep being probably the biggest one. If you're drinking at night, which is the most common time to drink, it disrupts your sleep. It makes it so that your deep sleep is much harder to attain. I think anybody who drinks alcohol has had the experience of having a much worse night of sleep after they've had even a couple glasses. And that's a big part of the kind of next day feeling not as fresh and healthy. So I'm not saying if you like to drink, you have to stop, but it is sort of the scientist that the less you drink, the better it's going to be for your brain.
Yeah, and if you know, like with everything, if you start to notice that you are, that alcohol is impairing your ability to function, then obviously, you know that that's something you shouldn't be doing. And there are many, many different kinds of dementia, and alcohol-related dementia is one of the unfortunately more common ones, but also one of the ones that at least we know what the causes and can take steps to reverse it. Okay.
Okay.
Robin will reach out to you. I see you've got a question there about becoming part of the coaching team, and we'll go ahead and reach out to you individually about that.
Should we eat 3 meals a day? Is it better to eat small meals and snacks?
So there was a time when the thinking was that it was really better to eat small meals and snacks because it presumably maintained a blood sugar level. However, that's sort of been disproven that that's the better way to do it, that it's actually better for your digestion to complete rather than, so in other words, when you're eating small meals all the time, your digestion is always working, it's always working, it's always working. And it's much better for your digestion to have a chance to rest between meals. Now, of course, this is also can be a very individual thing. If you have certain health issues that say, it's better for you to eat many smaller meals, okay, that's what you should do. But as an overall thing, I think that the thinking on nutrition, you can, for everything that says yes, you'll find something that says no. But for the most part, I believe that we've gone back to the idea that it's better to give your digestion a chance to rest.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the value of the overnight fast that Myra talked about. If you're doing that kind of overnight fast, probably not as big a deal if you're having 3, meals or 2 meals, or you're kind of snacking between meals, because you're still giving your body that half a day every day to sort of complete all the digestion, to do some healing, to have some gut rest, all of those different pieces. I would say probably what you're eating at that point and what you're eating at the different meals is probably more important than exactly the timeline, especially if you're giving that overnight fast.
And are weights better than cardio? They're 2 different things, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say better. I would say both are very important. So we want to have, and they're also not really like totally different things. If you're doing weights, most often you're probably getting a cardio workout as part of that. But we really want muscle and a healthy cardio system. Muscle is going to help us do all of the activities of daily living that we want to do. It's going to make a quality of life that we want. So is cardio. The one thing to think is as we age, it gets harder and harder to add muscle. So thinking like we want to have enough muscle by the time we're, 75, 80, that we can afford to lose some throughout the rest of our life. Which isn't to say working out after 75, 80 isn't also really important to maintaining muscle. And so we want muscle, but we also want to have that healthy cardiovascular system. Our vascular health both helps us a lot with doing things every day, not feeling winded going up the stairs, being able to go for long walks, whatever you find joy in, that's going to be really helpful. But also maintaining the health of our actual blood vessels is so important to getting nutrients to our brains. And cardio is really the thing that does that. If you ask any doctor, the closest we're ever going to get to a wonder pill is exercise. It has the most well-rounded benefits of anything we could do.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that that the weight training is extremely important, not only for building muscle, but also for bone health. And bone health and osteoporosis is, of course, a concern for everyone as we age. And that one of the best ways to combat it is with weight training. So that's, something else you want to consider. And I did read a study where they were measuring the effectiveness of weight training over different ages. And the oldest person in the study was 93 years old. And this person did gain muscle mass from beginning weight training that was appropriate for them. So it's never too late.
It is absolutely never too late. And
Yeah.
it's always going to have a benefit. And, Myra mentioned the bone health. It also has benefits for combating insulin resistance or maintaining your blood sugar levels. Our muscles are one of the places our body stashes additional energy that's in our blood, additional glucose in our blood, so that the muscles have energy to use. So we could talk for 4 hours about the benefits of exercise and still only scratch the surface. Any other questions?
Lynn, did you have a question? You're unmuted, so I thought I'd ask. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Special thanks to Steve and Myra for the wonderful presentation. As soon as the recording is available, I will upload that to our YouTube channel. And tomorrow I'll send out that link along with information about our upcoming programs and the information resources that were discussed in the Q&A. Someone did add a link to a story on CNN about nanoplastics and water nanoplastic study. I think
today,
I read
it looks like. So
yeah,
there you go.
I read about it in, I think, the New York Times yesterday. So I'll include that link as well. And thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. This was wonderful. And thanks for kind of starting off your 2024 brain health journey with us. I hope we get to see all of your faces again soon.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.